Okay. All right. Eric from Engle Shook Nursing Home. Eric, thanks for being here.
Yes, funeral home.
Funeral home. Yes. Did I say nursing home?
Yes.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Sorry. So Eric, when you first heard about the pandemic back in whatever it was, January, February, March, what was your first reaction to it?
How is this going to affect me? Or how is this going to affect the community? And is it going to, are we going to see it? Is it going to affect people in Tiffin, Ohio, and me and my family?
And then when did you start seeing the impact of it on your end?
I would say probably this past winter.
Okay, what's your average number of let's just say, and especially, and there's two parts of this that I'm going to look at, but there may be more because you're in the business, I'm not in the business. The families, and of course the number of families, how they're reacting versus a family who didn't die of COVID, and then the number of people that you had to process. I mean, it had to be.
Our business for when the numbers got really big in our area over November, December, January, our business was probably double and sometimes triple the normal load that we were.
Oh my gosh.
Normal, and that has subsided since then. But we were, and it was tough on the families that had COVID, had lost somebody due to COVID because of, their loved one was in a hospital or a nursing home and they were unable to see them because they were quarantined in the hospital or the nursing home or whatever facility they were in. So it was very difficult from their aspect because those individuals were kind of alone, without family. The families obviously were suffering with that too because their loved one they weren't able to see them. They were at home, some of them with COVID, some without COVID, all of that. It's also affected the side of services. Some families I deal with are COVID believers, and some families don't believe or agree with it as much as the others.
Yeah.
So some families we are doing full service, some families we are doing very limited private services because of each family's belief or thoughts. Some families don't want to be exposed to people, other families don't mind it, or don't mind it as much.
And that's had to be such an unusual approach to consoling the grieving. It had to be.
That is correct. So every family has a different expectation of how this is going to go. It's kind of taken our industry and turned it upside down.
Big time.
In the way we do funerals, the way that our visitations normally or traditionally have been a gathering of people. And now during this COVID time, gathering is not what we're looking for. A lot of people don't want to have mass gatherings.
Yeah.
So it's been difficult for families to be able to celebrate mom or dad or their loved one's life.
So let me I'm just feeling this right now. You've been immersed in it. And for me, I'm just a citizen, a civilian out here, not in this business. But when you've got families and you've had enough experience to know how to handle the grief, however it happens, you have enough experiences to handle the grief. But now you've got people coming in with grief and anger, and then they haven't seen their loved one for months in the nursing home. And then the next time they see them is in your place.
Correct.
And it's got to be the shock of everything. I mean, it's not.
It's a big shock, and it's very difficult because there's a lot of pent up for a lot of emotion that's been.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to see mom or grandma or grandpa in the last month, 2, 3, 4 months because they've been quarantined at the nursing home or the hospital, or we've had families that their loved one gets shipped to a different hospital or put on a ventilator, not been able to see them, and they pass away at the hospital. And again, the first time they're seeing them is here after a long period of time.
Yes.
So yes, the grief is real. It is different. because it all hits them all at once.
And it's just I can't even imagine how to handle that, knowing that you've got, and of course now that's unique and difficult as it is. Then you pile it on top of the number of people you had to deal with in November, December, and January. I mean, I talked with St. Francis, I talked with Good Shepherd, and they're losing like 30 of them in a month.
Yes.
Normally it's like one every other month.
Yep.
It was 5 years of deaths in a month.
Right.
And the guilt that they feel when they told me the guilt they have because they let it in, and somehow it got in, and then once it got in, it just took over. Oh my God, I can't even imagine it.
And that's and that was the tough part, that, there was, it was daily. We were seeing a death here, different, and, and all we can do is all we did was, luckily I've got good staff and I've got good people here, but we, took it as it came. The people in the community were in a time of crisis or the pandemic. They didn't know what to do. So we just kind of did what we had to do for, our families to just continue to work. And it was stressful for a few months.
It had to be. I can't even imagine it. And it was an aspect of this responders I didn't even think about how you guys had to deal with this, because it's such a different grief, and you have so many different aspects of it. Then you have it compounded by the numbers that are just triple the amount that you're normally used to.
That is correct.
Oh my God.
It was a different time. I never thought. We've been through many different types of pandemics. The swine flu, the bird flu, a lot of those different things, but they never really mounted to what this has made it to, or we didn't really experience it to the level we've seen it here in Tiffin, Ohio.
Give me an example. Just walk me through, if you can, a day that in December that you can remember.
It was daily. The deaths were coming in. We're not used to doing funerals and things every day. We own a crematory. Our crematory was running nonstop. We do cremations for a lot of other funeral homes that don't have a crematory. So we were kind of, in the morning it's start first thing bright and early in the morning, and we'd have families. We'd be dealing with families that some of them could come to make arrangements, but some couldn't because some of them have COVID. So part of the family is trying to make decisions for the entire family.
Oh, wow.
We're trying to balance that with funerals that day that we already have scheduled. So we'd have a funeral or two that day. We were running at some points 2 and 3 funerals a day.
Oh my gosh.
Some of these most of them at that time are private, some sort of private service. Some are viewing visitation services, some are not, due to if the individual had COVID or not had COVID. And every family, again, like I said, that's the most important thing, I think, to take away, that every family had a different thought.
Yeah. So
it wasn't, we just didn't have option 1 or 2. We kind of tried to tailor to the family what they wanted to do and how they wanted to handle it. All within the guidelines that we were given through the state and all of that kind of thing. But we tried to still give some personalization to the service for the family.
And when you have that many a day and you're trying to let people who haven't seen each other grieve and trying to give them time to grieve because they haven't seen each other, they haven't seen the deceased in such a long time, then you're trying to escort them out from the next family to come and do the same thing. I mean, oh my, I can't even imagine having to do that.
And luckily, we didn't do the traditional all-day visitations like we had in the past, due to a lot of, there were more private, so there were less time frames, so which made it a little bit easier on our side, because we weren't having those visitations from 2 to 8 or 5 to 8 or, like we had in the past before this. So it was a little less time frame to allow the amount of numbers we were seeing. In 1 month we did 39 funerals.
Oh, wow.
And, we're used to doing 15, 16, 17 funerals a month. And,
wow.
To have more than a death a day, extremely busy.
You guys are experts in the grieving process. That's what I want to make sure. You guys are experts in it. You've been trained, you've been experiencing it, you know how to handle the grieving process from a family.
Right.
And then you're thrown this whole different perspective on how the family's going to react. And you got so many of them at the same time.
And that was the challenge, and everybody handles it a different way. Everybody has a different spiritual background. Everybody has a different belief. And let's face it, everybody grieves in a different way. So trying to accommodate all of those different grieving habits or beliefs. Some of the families we dealt with had a spiritual connection to a church. Others did not. So some were dealing with the pastoral care at the nursing home or the hospital. Some didn't have any kind of pastoral care or spiritual care or guidance from a church or a pastor.
And so you became it.
So we kind of step in and do everything we possibly can. So it's taken a community, in my opinion, it's taken a lot of different moving parts to kind of get the community through this. The nursing homes have helped drastically, the churches, the local pastors, the hospital staff. I had one family that had made mention that, they talked to their loved one in the hospital. And one of the nurses, after this gentleman had passed away, the nurse was extremely close to this particular gentleman. And she said, I never met this guy in my entire life, but I was it for him. Yes. Because his family couldn't come in. His family couldn't come see him because he was COVID or had, COVID, and the hospital wouldn't let him come in. But in return, he kept telling the family, I've got this nurse that has been holding my hand, that's been getting me through this. Well, unfortunately, the gentleman had passed away. But, when I went in to get him, the nurse was pretty broke up that she said, I never met this guy in my life. But,
that's all he had was her.
With it because this was, the people in the hospitals have just the staff. My brother, he did not pass away. My brother spent a couple weeks at St. V's with COVID on a ventilator. He has fortunately came through it. But he says the same thing, for 2 weeks I was on a ventilator, he was out. But on the other hand, the time that I spent there that I wasn't in a coma, medically induced coma, but he said when I was awake at that time, all I had was the staff. They were like family to me.
And that's I've been when I had nurses, I've interviewed them. I said the same thing. That all they had, they knew they couldn't have family, so they would stay with them.
Yep.
And so they experienced so much death in a short period of time.
Yeah, very short period of time.
Big time. It's amazing to me. I can't even. It's hard. This is why I'm doing this project, Eric, because I want the Tiffin public to know the industries that were affected by this and what they did and how they handled it. Because there are people in this town that don't believe it, and there are people in this town that don't think it's all created and made up, and I'm losing my job because of something else that's really happening.
And that's where I stress that it's from every family we talk to and go from one family to the next. Every family's got a different thought process of what's going on, and like I said, some believe and some don't believe. And like you said, some people think it's made up, or so it's different, and the numbers are getting better, at least in my little realm of it. As things have slowed down, but who knows what's around the corner.
So you had 39 in a month.
Correct.
And you had how many a day then at that point? Not 7 days a week, right? Did you go 7 days a week with the funerals?
Yeah. Well, we will. Yes. Yep.
Oh, wow.
I'm not saying every 7 days we had it, but yes, we will. We'll do funerals and visitations and things any day of the week. Yep. As long as we can get everybody else to cooperate, pastors and things like that. But yep. There for a while we were running 7 days a week, round the clock.
What was in that 39 in that period of time? What was your worst day and what was your best day?
They were all long. long days, long days, long days. But that's what we're here for. That's what they call us for.
How do you keep up? How do you keep up the energy to go from one family to the next? I mean, I know you're good at it. I know this is what you're experts in.
The only thing I could say is it's just what I do, just what we do here. We rest when we can, but we're here to serve the family, and that's kind of what's. And in my line of work, we don't know when it's going to happen. So you just you take the good days with the bad, and you just keep going. And it's we're busy, but in my line of work, you can have a few deaths over a weekend. You could do 6 or 7 in a day. Have 6 or 7 deaths in a day, and then you can go a week or two and have nothing.
Yeah.
So you kind of take the good with the bad. I don't want to say bad, but you just take the good days with the long days. And in our industry, we're just very accustomed to that, very used to that. It's what we do.
Yeah, but you did it in such a tremendous situation. I mean, it was just, I have a hard time.
And a lot of times I feel if I'm not here to do that, the family only gets, one time to do it.
Yeah.
One chance to grieve dad, or I don't want to say grieve dad, but one chance to celebrate dad's life or mom's life. So because we're a little tired or it's been a long week, that's secondary.
Yeah.
We get one chance to celebrate the loved one's life. We've got to make that happen.
Let me ask you, I'm going to run an idea by you that hit me yesterday. I was talking to a nurse, and I want to run this by you, and then I want to ask you one more question, and we'll be done, okay?
Okay.
Here's the idea. Given the fact that you guys have gone through such a tremendous event, let's just call it, all right, above and beyond, and as have people across the country, okay? What if we created the opportunity for a GI Bill for first responders? Meaning we can give you money for education that you can either hand down to your children or use it yourself for whatever you want to do with it because of what you've been through.
I would think it would be, I don't personally need that. I think it'd be great for a lot of the first responders. I agree with that. The nurses, the first responders that are inundated with it all day, every day, and taking care of these people. I don't particularly need that.
Okay, that's fine.
We've kind of made that through, but I think that wouldn't any help that you can give some of those first responders is wonderful in whatever shape, form it comes from.
I'm working on that right now because it hit me yesterday. I was talking to a nurse about this, and I thought, yep. Holy, they're like they went to war like a veteran did.
Yep.
Let's get them something similar to that.
Yep. And I think that's wonderful. I think that's a great idea from their standpoint. They're inundated and working around the clock, and I think that would be a great thing for them.
One more thing, and then the last question. I'd like to invite. I want to duplicate this project across the state, okay? Because I think it's easy to do, and it's a way for the community to say thank you in a public way. It's also a way for them to see what's really happening through art. Mm-hmm. Could you give me a number, and I'll email you whatever, of the National Association of Funeral Homes or whoever, because I want one person from there to see this and say, you know what, we can do this in our town. Because I think it's a way for the community to say we don't know how to say thank you. We don't know what to do. As a civilian, I don't know what to do. But doing this project allows everyone to come together to say thank you collectively, I think, and recognize you guys for your efforts.
I can give you, if you look up if you're still taping this here, it's the National Funeral Directors Association.
Okay, I'm typing it right now. National Funeral Home Directors Association.
The website itself, if you're on the internet, is nfda.org.
There we go, it's right there.
Yep, that is the National Funeral Directors Association. That is, I don't want to say we all belong to it, but this is the largest funeral service association in the country.
Okay, I will.
Every state has one of these. If you, the Ohio one is OFDA. I think it's org, but let me double check org. No, it is not. That's Oregon's. And then there's one in Ohio, and I'm going to look at it up here for you. Ohio Funeral Directors Association.
Yeah, got that one, OFDA.
But and let me get you their website, because if you type in ofda.org, that comes up to the Oregon.
No, I got ofdaonline.org.
Oh, perfect. Yep.
Okay, I'll do that. Okay, last thing, when you see someone when someone comes in to see your artwork, all right, during that event that we're going to have, which I want you to be there, because you'll be able to meet the artist at that point. Okay.
Okay.
What would you want that person viewing this artwork to come away with from this piece of art, from your story? What do you want them to feel or sense or walk away with?
I would think not so much me, but the pain and suffering or the grief that the families have went through. I can't imagine, not so much from my standpoint, but from the families we've served standpoint of, I can't imagine losing somebody in a hospital or in a nursing home that I haven't seen for months. The pain that comes with that. That's really, from where I'm at. Not so much, we're trained at this. That's what we do. That's what we're here for. That's the service we provide. But really, the families we deal with, the grief and the knowing that dad or husband or wife, mom, son, brother has been to the nursing home or the hospital for months and has passed away. That's the kind of the grief, the pain that's tough.
I can sense that, and that's what I'm thinking too. I can't even fathom how a person must feel when you have not been able to see them. Not because you haven't seen them because of your own accord, but you have not been able to see them.
Yep.
And you left them and they were healthy, and now they're in a casket, and it's just
Yep. And you haven't seen them in months.
Yeah. Oh God.
Yes. And whether it's COVID related or it's un-COVID related,
right?
Just the fact of the families, I hear it time and time again that we haven't seen mom in months. We haven't seen them in months. And when we last seen mom, she looked really good.
Yeah.
And she was healthy, but now she's in the casket.
One of the things that the one nurse told me was that she, the depression that kicked into the residents of the nursing homes, especially the depression that kicked in because they couldn't see their families, was huge.
Well, and I can only imagine because now all of a sudden, and some of them being quarantined to their room.
Yes.
I can only imagine being, you or I staying in the same room for. And they
didn't want to eat. They
Correct.
said so. Yeah. And then when you can't smell or taste anything, why would you want to eat in the first place?
Correct.
And so they essentially starved to death.
It's that's a terrible thought.
It is, and
yep.
and it's just it just overwhelms me sometimes. Okay, all right, Eric.
Well, hey, thank you.
You've been tremendous. I'll let you know when the date's going to be, and when the artist gets your artwork, and we'll go from there. Okay, but I really appreciate your input on this, truly, and I appreciate all your efforts you've done into this whole pandemic.
I appreciate it very much. Anything else, let me know.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.